Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Mr. City Clerk, can you please call roll?
Councilmember Tamayo,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Present.
Councilmember Jimenez, Councilmember Melendez,
Here.
Mayor Torres.
Mr. City Attorney, can you please announce closed session items?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. At this time, anyone who wishes to address the City Council on an item that's listed on closed session should have filled out a card and submitted to the City Clerk at this time. This is only for the closed session items. Mr. City Clerk, do we have any requests?
No requests at this time for closed
Thank
session.
you. This time, Mr. Mayor, it's appropriate to recess into closed session to discuss items 1, 2, and 3.
We'll recess at 6:03 p.m. We will resume open session. Mr. City Attorney, if you can please give us a closed session report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The record should reflect that the City Council, with all 5 members being present in closed session, discussed the items that were announced. It should be noted that item 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, was not discussed this evening. But the following is my report. On item 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, as listed, the City Council provided direction to the City Attorney's Office, but there was no action taken and nothing to be reported. On item 2, public employee performance evaluation is listed on the agenda. There was a discussion on this matter. No action was taken, and direction was provided to legal counsel on this item, special counsel. With that, that concludes my report from closed session. It is appropriate to continue with the open portion of the meeting at this time.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. This evening, we will be having our clerk conduct the invocation, and I would like to welcome to the front of the dais here Troop 33, a Montebello Scout troop that welcomes both boys and girls ages 11 to 18 into their program. They focus on providing youths with outdoor experiences, opportunities for community service, and a place to grow as leaders. More information about Troop 33 can be found by Googling Montebello Scout Troop 33 and clicking on the first link. Mr. City Clerk, if you can please lead us and Scout Troop 33, if you will please follow the City Clerk, and if the chambers can please rise.
As we gather here today, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much, Troop 33, and if we can please give them a round of applause. I'd just like to thank all the parents and volunteers that make the program possible, and thank you for joining us and leading us this evening. Assistant City Manager Salazar, do we have any corrections to the agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you. Starting with ceremonial items and presentations, I'd like to start off with recognizing the staff that responded to the unfortunately twice in a lifetime tornado, but for like once in a lifetime in terms of Montebello. I'd like to recognize and thank the numerous city staff from multiple departments who responded to an unprecedented and unexpected disaster that happened directly impact Montebello. Prior to March 22nd of this year, no one had seen or experienced a tornado in the Los Angeles region for more than 40 years. Staff members from our planning and community development and fire departments continue to assist both businesses and workers in the impact zone with recovery efforts following the tornado. When the first call came that a tornado had touched down in our community, city staff did not hesitate to get on the scene immediately. Our police and fire personnel did an outstanding job evacuating all the affected buildings, establishing a safe perimeter, and managing traffic in the area. Our Public Works Department mobilized immediately to clear debris from the streets and public walkways. Planning and community development staff worked hand in hand with our fire inspectors to identify and tag damaged structures, and our Recreation and Community Services Department provided a food station and support for all responding personnel from every department so they could keep working. The Public Affairs Department managed and handled dozens of local and national media inquiries and quickly posted tornado resource information to the city's website for the public and impacted businesses to access. I would like to especially recognize our Planning and Community Development Department staff who played an important role in the response and continue to coordinate and communicate with local business owners, property owners, and those businesses' employees to connect them with the resources they need to get back on their feet in collaboration with our LA County, state, and federal partners. In addition to city staff and resources, the scale of this disaster could not have been effectively managed without the support from the following organizations and partners who assisted us, including the 1st District County Supervisor Hilda Solis and her office, Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management, the cities of Alhambra, Whittier and Monterey Park, the National Weather Service, SoCal Edison, and SoCal Gas. I'd like to personally thank all city staff who played a role in responding to the March 22nd tornado for their efforts to assist those affected with the most timely, caring, and professional emergency response effort. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed, and I am honored to be the mayor of a city where the mettle of our staff demonstrates with actions and resolves what it means to serve the people of Montebello. As a personal experience that I've been sharing, within a few moments of the disaster, a few hours of the disaster, and walking down Maple Avenue and going to see our fire chief, it was really an incredible scene to see how quickly everyone was getting back to rebuilding their businesses, assessing the damage and helping everyone out, to see the coordination between our police and fire departments in terms of providing aerial support, and fire just really having the vision to see what services that were impacted could create further dangerous situations, and making sure that those were immediately handled was really a great comfort as I walked also with Assistant City Manager Salazar through the disaster area. And as I just mentioned, this was a multi-departmental effort, and being that it was such a strange and unique occurrence, as well as one that was devastating for several businesses and many, many employees. I'd also just like to read off the names of city staff that participated in the efforts to memorialize what happened, and the, really the heroics of the city sweeping in to support our community, doing the function that government was really created to do. And so this evening, I would like to recognize Alex Gilman, Public Information Officer from our Public Affairs and Information Technology Department, Joe Palumbi, the Director of Planning and Community Development, Matthew Ramos, our Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development, Joseph Coda, Code Enforcement Manager of Planning and Community Development, Jose Gardea, Economic Development Manager from the Planning and Community Development Department, Monica Mercado, the Planning Manager from our Planning and Community Development Department, Rosemary Parrish, our Housing Manager, Oscar Perez, our Code Enforcement Officer, and Maria Celeste Alcante, Code Enforcement Officer, all from our Planning and Community Development Department. I'd also like to read off the names of our police department officers that responded to the incident, including our police chief, Paul Espinoza, our captain, Boris Zasig, Ruben Sabala, lieutenant from the police department, Sergeant Omar Rodriguez, Sergeant Adam Mitchell, Detective Brandon Contreras, Detective Fernando Ochoa, Detective Jorge Medina, Corporal Mario Arreola, Corporal Eric Rodriguez, Officer Mike Vasquez, Officer Yusio Servin, Officer April Garcia, Officer Trevor Getz, Officer General Jennifer Merrill, Officer Josefina Arana, Officer Andres Izaguirre, Officer Trevor Morgan, Cadet Audrey Sanchez, and Police Dispatch Jessica Iniguez, Tiffany Avila, and Vianney Ramirez. We appreciate both the response and the ongoing involvement of our department staff who continue to assist in the tornado recovery effort, and I continue to urge impacted businesses and employees to utilize the tornado recovery webpage on our city's website to find the information they need to help and get them back on their feet. And I also just really quickly want to mention another personal experience that followed shortly after, which was the disaster resource fair that following Tuesday. Just again, really incredible to see what our city staff was able to organize. Under a week's notice, there was, maybe up to 24 tables between county, state, and federal resources, as well as our own departments, and making sure that businesses had access to grants, and working with the county to make sure that our applications are at the top of the list to make sure our businesses can get back on their feet, and connecting employees to the vital resources, whether it be public health and safety, whether it be insurance, whether it be rapid reemployment. We really did a full breath response. So I just want to thank all the names that I read and all the names that I didn't, and the city is truly appreciative of your response. Thank you very much. We can go, if my colleagues will join me at the front here for our Citizen of the Month presentation. I would like to welcome to the front Mayra Gutierrez. Mayra Gutierrez is a supervising case manager for the Senior Services Department at the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation for the past 7 years. Mayra attended Bell Gardens High School and graduated magna cum laude from Cal State Long Beach with a BA in psychology. Within MAOF Senior Services Department, she assists older adults with applying for federal benefits programs and oversees the food bank operation that serves over 400 people each week. She assesses the needs of her clients and connects them with resources to keep them living independently in their own homes. Mayra has partnered with the Montebello Fire Department and the Montebello Senior Center to offer food boxes to vulnerable older adults and people experiencing homelessness. She enjoys connecting with other organizations in Montebello to bring additional services to our senior residents and advocates for seniors through educational presentations. Mayra dedicates her extra time at the food bank, which often includes her weekends. She's a key connection for many seniors and low-income families and others who face food insecurity, and she always supports everyone with compassion and patience. Connecting seniors with valuable resources so they can remain healthy and independent in their homes, whether it's Montebello or the surrounding neighborhoods, gives Mayra a sense of joy. To quote Mayra, our elders should be able to age gracefully in the place they call home. Mayra is passionate and has a heart for service. She goes above and beyond what is required by her job responsibilities. And for all those reasons and more, we recognize Mayra Gutierrez as the City of Montebello's April Citizen of the Month. And we have all these duties, and we skip them. Maybe we should get more photos. Every month, the City Council and the city recognizes different health and heritage months. For this month, we are recognizing National Child Abuse Prevention, National Volunteer Month, Autism Awareness Month, Armenian History Month, and National Donate Life Month. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. During the pandemic, it was reported that at-risk children may have been less likely to report suspected abuse due to the introduction of online and stay-at-home learning. Children under the age of 18 may have been exposed to increased physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and neglect just by being confined inside their homes. As a community, we can work to understand this issue better and engage in preventive efforts to strengthen support families, providing quality care for minors, and paying attention to signs of abuse so that help and intervention can be compassionately used. We ask that our friends, family, and residents please always be conscious about raising awareness of suspected child abuse to keep children safe, healthy, and cared for whenever possible. There are resources and information available to help at preventchildabuse.org. Each year in the month of April is recognized as National Volunteer Month. And I'd like to use this time to recognize our citizens and staff who keep all our organizations, programs, and services thriving. Without the dedication and passion of our city and community volunteers, many programs would not be possible. I urge our residents to find opportunities to volunteer with us, follow city news and information, and watch for opportunities to participate in events and programs like City Service Saturday cleanups organized by the Recreation and Community Services Department. Speaking of City Service Saturday events, our next one will take place on April 22nd at City Park. I apologize here, at City Park, City Hall, and Chet Hollyfield Park. The City Service Saturday will be special as it falls on Earth Day, which serves to bring attention to how we can all work together to protect the environment. That said, I would like to thank the many volunteers, including our Citizen of the Month, for their generosity in giving back to our neighborhoods and local businesses. We ran the numbers, and over the past 12 months, the city made use of 725 volunteers across 19 events, equaling 4,000 people hours and saving us $120,000 in labor costs. It goes without saying that the impact the volunteers in our community make is something we are extremely grateful for, and whenever possible, we hope to recognize them. I remind our residents that if you know of an outstanding business or individual who should be recognized for their work, please nominate them to be considered as a Citizen of the Month so they can be recognized here at a future City Council meeting. Nomination forms can be found on our website at www.montebelloca.gov. We also recognize April as Autism Acceptance Month. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by the differences in social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to the CDC, autism affects an estimated 1 in 36 children in the United States today. On December 18th, 2007, the United Nations General Assembly declared April 2nd World Autism Awareness Day. This day is a call to action to increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism, improving wellness and inclusion for all. I encourage our Montebello community to learn and understand more about people with autism and to recognize their resilience and ability to see the world differently. Families and friends who live with autism every day knows what it means to experience life through a different lens. We also this month recognize Armenian History Month. April has been given the distinction by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors to acknowledge the vast contribution of the Armenian community to our county's economic and culture, and it is acknowledged across the country as well. This month, we recognize the contributions of our local Armenian community has made and be mindful of all who have been lost to historic conflicts. April also reminds us that our city was the first in the United States to create an iconic monument that pays respect to victims of the Armenian genocide with the unveiling of the Martyrs Memorial Monument in April of 1968. This beautiful monument remains open to the public as a historic reminder of the lives that were lost. We encourage all who wish to stop by and visit it to do so. And lastly, National Donate Life Month, which raises awareness about organ, eye, and tissue donation while encouraging the public to register as donors. This is also an important time to honor those that have saved lives through the gift of donation. This year's theme is Make a Splash. Frogs and toads are a sign of healing and renewal, and water lilies represent hope. The lily pads we see on the surface of a pond are part of a much larger plant rooted below the water. The water lily plant reminds us of the support and collaboration needed for hope to bloom. This National Donate Life Month, I would like to ask that you consider being a part of this interconnected life-sustaining community by registering as an organ, eye, and tissue donor, becoming educated about living donation, and championing the Donate Life cause. To learn more about this important initiative, residents can visit donatelife.net. And now, Ms. City Attorney, thank you for joining us. Public comments on non-agenda items. If you can please read the statement of oral communications.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City Council will address non-agenda items during this section, and speakers will be called in the order received. Those persons not accommodated during this 30-minute period will have an opportunity to speak under public comments continued after all scheduled matters have been considered. Public hearing, regular business, and/or consent calendar items will be addressed at the time that the matter of the business is heard in the order received. Please be aware that the maximum time allotted for members of the public to speak shall not exceed 3 minutes per speaker. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action or entertaining extended discussion on a topic not listed on the agenda. Please show courtesy to others and direct all of your comments to the Mayor and the City Council.
Thank you, Ms. City Attorney. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. First speaker is going to be Margot Iser, followed by David Sanchez.
Good evening. Here I am again to remind you that our city is a park-poor city, and there's a very, very, very easy and inexpensive way to remedy that. And that is by immediately designating what remains of our municipal golf course as a public park and open space. This will enhance our life, quality of life, and that of future generations. And it's just extremely interesting that the city of Santa Ana is already doing this. They have had a golf course there, but now they are not going to let it be used for any commercial or any other kind of, they're letting it become park and open space. There was an entity that reported on that you maybe could look up as an aid to helping us city do the same thing. The interesting thing is that I have here 2 more of the kind of informal petitions that I have printed before, but they're in the administrative office listed under comments. They're filed under comments. So here's some more. I was going to be by saying we, the citizens, concerned citizens, people, residents, constituents, taxpayers, voters of the city of all districts are requesting that you do give us this benefit of this that you can do to make our lives better in the future generations. But I want to formally say that you can check out go check the many of petitions. They're not expensive, but they're showing the respect of the city, people of the city. The next thing is that I also sent out to some of you, and only one person did respond, a paperless petition in which there was wording of the petition sent by email, and people who wanted to do it sent them to you by email. I think one person did respond, and that she had gotten it. So I hope that the rest of you will take into account that all over the city, all over this area, there are people who want and need that remaining land of that beautiful, wonderful municipal golf course to be a public park and open space. So I'm turning this in officially now on behalf of those who signed it. Who's coming to collect it? I want it to be shown. Thank you. I like your outfit, by the way. Thank you, and I hope you all have good evenings and that we can continue to maintain our city's uniqueness and our specialness by working together, and you respond to what we need and want to help make it better, and we go on for more years in the future. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is David Sanchez, followed by Edward Franco.
Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to come out my name is David Sanchez, and I'm in favor of major changes at the intersection of Findlay and Villacampo. And I think my idea is simply this. I mean, putting new paint out there and striping the lanes and putting new signs that are beat up, that's a nice Band-Aid, but I think that what we have to do is something really pretty drastic, and I think that's going to be to close off the tunnel underneath the Pomona Freeway to all vehicular traffic and not allow any left turns, northbound travel on Findlay any longer. That's it, end of story. No longer will people to make illegal left turns in front of oncoming traffic from the right lane, and people will be able to go south on Finley with no problem. So if we take the K-rails out and put them instead on the tunnel so that no more cars can go underneath. Now, pedestrians, bicycles, so forth, they can go underneath all day long, go to school and so forth, but no more cars. It's drastic, but I think that everything that's been tried over the last 30, 40 years since they put those K-rails in there has not worked. And that poor guy that lives on the corner of Finley and Villacampo gets a car in front of his house in his lawn every once in a while, and it's just too much. So keeping the kids safe, keeping people safe, that's what we've got to do. And just one little other thing is that I thought that the changes that they did a few years ago in broadcasting these city council meetings on the cable channel 3 would change, but it has not changed, and it's sitting there black with no program 24 hours a day except for the few hours of the city council meeting. A few years ago, they just used to play this previous city council meeting on a loop. And if you missed it, you could watch it. You don't have to have a computer. You don't have to have a phone or anything like that. If you had cable, you could watch it. I don't know why they changed it. Well, I think I know why, because people don't want to be seeing what's going on in the city. But I think we got to change that, and we got to be transparent and open and play it 24 hours, 7 days a week, or have some other interesting bits of information of what's going on in the city for people that don't, your older folks that don't have computers and stuff like that. So I think that's really worth it. It's free, and why they don't just, run the same city council meeting like they did over and over again, be fine. So let's change this on Finley and Villacampo, and let's run the city council meetings on Channel 3. Thanks. Good night.
Next speaker is Edward Franco, followed by Marlene Ramirez.
Ms. Salazar, we can take action on items that aren't on the agenda, but could council receive a little information on the status of our broadcast on Channel 3? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, council, and staff. Mayor, first, I'd like to thank you, because I know we had a meeting not too long ago, so I wanted to personally thank you for joining us to that. Unfortunately, the only thing is I see the city manager on the closed agenda again. So to me, that seems a little passive aggressive. I don't know why you guys keep putting them on there, but it's just a little concern. So one, thank you, and two, just want to let you know what my concern is about constantly seeing them being put on the closed agenda time and time again. All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Marlene Ramirez, followed by Aurelia Ramirez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Torres, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, and City Councilmen. My name is Marlene Ramirez, and I live in District 2 in Montebello. We decided to choose Montebello to raise our daughter and have her attend MUSD schools. Upon moving to Finley Avenue in 2011, it became immediately clear that the intersection at Finley and Villacampo is a hot spot for accidents. We've been speaking to the city of Montebello about this for about 10 years, since our community was invited to give opinions on the intersection options. After nothing had been done, I've sent requests to the Traffic and Safety Commission, and when it was going to get scheduled for a public hearing, the Safety and Traffic Commission was disbanded. We brought this up with emails to the city again 2 years ago when the intersection was going to get improvements, and here we are again with not one drop of paint and not one sign replaced since I moved here 12 years ago. I wanted to remind our council that school children walk through this intersection twice a day. There was a time 3 years ago when I was walking my daughter to school, or when I was picking her up, and there was a car accident that occurred minutes right before pickup time, where the car came up on the sidewalk and families had to walk around it to walk home. It's only a matter of time before a child is going to get killed here. The signs are faded. The design restricting right turns is unclear, and drivers are always speeding or not paying attention to the faded signs. I'm standing before you as a Montebello mother, a PTA board member, and a public school teacher advocating on behalf of Montebello children. When I brought the crosswalks up to the City of Monterey Park last summer, all the crosswalks surrounding Bella Vista Elementary were repainted, bright yellow with solid lines. It would be great if Montebello proactively repainted all our schools' crosswalks and inventory the safety features to show our community that we care about pedestrian safety and we care about our children. Please prioritize this intersection. It's widely known, based on the history of incident reports, that something has to change. I am pleading to you to take actionable steps into finding a long-term solution and to prioritize Montebello school pedestrian safety. Also speaking on behalf of Applied Technology Center, it was not mentioned earlier that this Friday is a senior citizen prom. That's also led by volunteers. It'd be great if the community was there. Thank you.
Next speaker is Aurelia Ramirez, followed by Rosa Tamayo.
Hello, Montebello City Council. My name is Aurelia Ramirez. I'm 10 years old. I go to Bella Vista Elementary School. The elementary school is right next to the intersection of Finley. I have walked to school many times and have witnessed car accidents. I know a family that goes to Bella Vista and lives right next to where that intersection is. Please keep my friends and I safe while we walk to school. Thank you, Montebello City Council.
Next speaker is Rosa Tamayo, followed by Linda Nicholas.
If we can please set the timer for 6 minutes.
Quiero aclarar una cosa. Tengo los 6 minutos, 3 por ella y 3 por mí, porque antes eran 1 minuto y medio. ¿Oh? Okay, thank you. I am Rosa Tamayo, and yo soy Rosa Tamayo. Y buenas noches, y Mayor David Torres y miembros del concilio.
Hello, good evening. My name is Rosa Tamayo. Hello, council members and Mayor David Torres.
Quiero decirles que en el proyecto de metro que quieren poner para el sur de Montebello,
I would like to tell you about the metro project that you'd like to place in Montebello.
tomen en cuenta que la población es muy densa allá en el sur y hay muchos vehículos.
Take into account that there is a lot of population in the south side and there are many vehicles.
Y también que las calles están en muy malas condiciones.
And the streets are also in very bad condition.
Y es un problema también esto va a durar, si lo ponen,
It is also
va a durar los 4 años.
It is also a problem that if you go forward with this, it will last about 4 years.
Y para responder a la emergencia de la ambulancia,
And to respond
el Departamento de Policía y bomberos
to respond to ambulance, cops, and firefighters,
va a ser un caos.
it is going to be chaos.
Y por favor, quiero que arreglen primero las calles porque tenemos mucho problema con las pipas del gas.
I would like for you to fix the streets
Las
because
están
we have
arreglando.
a lot of issues with the pipes. They are fixing them.
El drenaje,
The drain,
el agua
water,
y diferentes electricidad también.
as well as electricity.
También, no porque tengan un proyecto y lo pueden poner abajo de la mesa, no, tienen que hablar con el city manager para que analicen todos los problemas
Not only
y se mire si es apropiado el proyecto.
Not only because the project is starting and you're putting it under the table, please talk to the city manager before you put anything forward.
Porque no se les olvide que ustedes trabajan para nosotros.
Don't forget that you all work for us.
Y el otro problema es que si miran millones, no quiere decir que estos 5 millones se les va a dar al Señor de los cielos.
Other problem is that just because you see millions doesn't mean that these 5 million are going to be given to the man in the sky.
Y 30 años también para el Señor de los cielos.
And 30 years as well.
Y se dieron cuenta, ahora mismo en el 22 de marzo, en el tornado,
Did you notice on March 22nd, the day of the tornado,
que tenemos una muy buena administración?
that we have a very good administration?
Respondieron todo el equipo de la ciudad,
The whole team of the city responded.
los miembros de la ciudad,
The members of the city as well,
de la policía,
of the police
de los
department,
bomberos,
firefighters,
de la ambulancia.
ambulance,
Y muchas gracias a Salvador Meléndez,
and thank you to
por-
Salvador Melendez.
que mire su liderazgo.
We saw your leadership.
Y por favor, no se vayan con que miramos millones y podemos ponerlos a como nos dé la gana.
And don't,
Mucho cuidado con eso, porque nosotros estamos vigilando cada centavo.
don't start with, we saw millions of dollars and we are going to use them all, because we are keeping an eye on that money.
Así como los consejos legales son muy caros y ustedes tienen consejo legal cada rato.
Just like we know that the legal counsels are very expensive and you're having multiple counsels.
Así que, y mucho cuidado con usar el gabo apropiadamente,
And be very careful with how you use the gavel.
porque yo estoy a
Appropriately.
veces en cortes y el juez es muy cuidadoso en usar el gabo
I am in
para todas las
courtrooms.
personas. Así que, por favor, Mayor David Torres, use bien su poder.
I'm in courtrooms constantly, and I see how the mayor or whoever's in charge uses the gavel appropriately. So please, Mayor Torres, be very careful with how you use your gavel.
Ms. Fernandez, has the time elapsed? Ms. DeMaio, does that conclude your comments?
¿Qué dijo?
Concluye su comentario?
Sí, gracias.
Yes, thank you.
Next speaker is Linda Nicholas.
Good evening. My name is Linda Nicholas, co-founder of Match 90640, address on file. The first question, again, why is city manager's evaluation on the agenda? He's on sick leave. As such, you cannot proceed with an evaluation on him. He can't be there to defend himself. I passed out some copies to Councilmember Jimenez, Tamayo, and Mr. Councilmember Melendez. There it shows that his evaluation is once a year. You are in breach of his contract. I didn't bother to give either one of you because you don't read anything. I'm hoping you can read it, and you can see that if you do it ahead of time, you're in breach of his contract. Just like, remember in January when Peralta tried to strip his powers to hire and fire? I spoke then and said you were in breach of his contract, which I believe was proven. Peralta was so upset, he proved you wrong. You were heard screaming at him, "I will fire you," loud enough for us to hear you in the chamber, Peralta. The second item is the anticipated litigation versus infrastructure engineering. I have never seen that statement, significant exposure to litigation, in one matter related to a claim ever posted on an agenda item in closed session. AAE, also known as IE, changed their names, and I have the article here, and I'll tell you why the change was. It says, audit, Montebello paid $2.5 million to a contractor at the center of an FBI investigation for bribery. Now, let's make this very nice and simple. AAE gave you, Torres, and you, Peralta, numerous donations of $5,000 on your 460s, over $10,000 each. I would think that you should not be able to participate regarding this item. And I am putting this on the record. It's a huge conflict of interest, and I will be sending it to the proper authorities and allow them to give their legal opinion. I'd also like to thank Director David Sanowski for a great event for the children, for the Easter event. I'd also like to commend Michael Chi, both Chief Espinoza, Chief Playas, Mr. Councilmember Melendez, for your great leadership on your interviews. You sounded like you were the mayor. I'm very proud of the way our city responded to a national disaster. I'm very sorry that our mayor didn't think it was enough to cancel the meeting.
Mayor, that does conclude all speaker cards.
Thank you, Mr. City Clerk, and thank you to all our speakers this evening. Ms. Salazar, are there any staff communications on items of community interest?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to, at this time, to invite our Director of Parks and Recreation, David Sosnowski, who has a couple of updates of some events that are coming up soon. Thank you.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, excited to be here tonight again to kick off the farmers market season. It's coming back to the city-owned lot on the southeast corner, of Montebello and Whittier behind the Wells Fargo. New time, 6 to 9, but still Thursday nights. And what we've done is rebrand this to kind of fit the market a little bit more to the entertainment of what we've been doing for the community there. So it's highlighting the community event aspect while still keeping the certified farmers market there. So we actually have more certified farmers that are going to be out there. 6, we used to have 3 to 4, right? So again, still certified, but having the community events and community businesses have a chance to be a part of it, as well as kicking off with entertainment, beer garden, as well as the Wise Guys performing this Thursday. So we'll be out there every Thursday night from 6 to 9. And then as briefly was stated, I'll just make a quick announcement for Earth Day. You'll see some social media posts coming pretty soon, but part of the city service circuit that we're doing, we're gonna do a couple park cleanups, plant a couple plants, plant some trees at Ashia Park, some smaller trees that fit there, as well as do e-waste here at City Hall. So you'll see a lot of the social media information shared here in the near future. We're expecting a lot of volunteers. The opportunities are available online through the city website through our various locations, City Park, Hollyfield, City Hall, Ashia Park. So just want to make those announcements today. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
Thank you very much, Director Sosnowski. Moving on to our public hearing, item number 11, adopt resolution number 2325, designating a preferential parking district along Tola Street from Montebello Boulevard to its westerly terminus. Ms. Salazar, is there a presentation?
No, Mayor, we do not. This would be appropriate to begin the public hearing process.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open the public hearing for this item at 7:51 p.m. Mr. City Clerk, are there any comments? Any public comments on the item?
Yes, Mayor, we do have 2 speaker cards.
Thank you.
First speaker will be Jesse Garcia, followed by Eduardo Medina.
Good evening, Mayor Torres, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, esteemed district members and city staff. I would like to thank Director of Public Works, James Enriquez, and his staff for the report recommending the preferential parking district along Tola Street. I know this process has taken some time due to the pandemic and also the elections. When the director spoke to me, he said he would do the best he could in order to put it on the fast track and to try to get it to council, and he did. So I thank him very much for doing that. So today we have several of the residents here in Chambers, and we are hoping that we can get a yes on this draft, or not draft, but on this adoption of Resolution 2325, I believe. Yes, it is. So, all of us have experienced our driveways being blocked, trash thrown all over the street. And per the report, 62% of the cars parked there are non-residents. Just this weekend alone, Friday, I had a car parked there in the afternoon in front of my house. It didn't allow me to park anyway, so I had to block my own driveway. And it didn't move until Sunday evening. And I watched it on my camera. So we're looking at more than 24 hours there. I'm not the only one. Several residents here have the same stories, same issues. Some of them have even been admonished for keeping their trash cans out there just to save a spot for themselves. I know that the city enforcement has gone by and kind of told them, get your trash cans out of there. We have some people that are brazen enough that they take the trash cans out of the way and park their cars there anyway. So there are several residents that have gone through that issue. So at this time, we're kind of really hoping that the city council can pass and adopt this resolution. It would save us a lot of problems, a lot of headaches. So we thank you for that, and have a good evening.
Next speaker is Eduardo Medina.
I'll make this short. A couple of years ago, they built an apartment complex on the back side of my home. Since then, there has been little parking on Tola Street. Family and friends have to park 2 or 3 blocks away. We can resolve this today. Please do so. God bless. Thank you.
Mayor, that does conclude both speaker cards that we've received for public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Being that there are no more speakers, I will close the public hearing at 7:55 p.m. And bring it up to the council level for discussion. Going down this evening's order, Councilmember Tamayo, do you have any questions or comments on the item?
No questions. And just in terms of comments, I do see per the staff report that 13 of the 18 properties are requesting this designation. And also, as previously mentioned, that the majority of the vehicles are non-resident vehicles that park there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem Peralta.
No questions, just in general, want to thank those that came to speak for the public hearing. It's always great to just see our residents be involved, especially with issues that affect their streets and their side of the neighborhood in Montebello. I thank you for your advocacy, and that concludes my comments for now.
Councilmember Jimenez.
I'm very glad to see this on our agenda today because I understand, I mean, this is only going to fix, but even if it's just a handful of residents' concerns and issues with the parking situation down there, I'm glad to see that our staff has been working to find a resolution and a solution to this because it is probably one of the most frustrating situations down in District 5. So I look forward to, and thank you for people that have been pushing for this and have been advocating for themselves and for the residents in that area.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I'm in support of the recommendation. Jesse, I know I spoke with you in the past about it, and thank you for sticking with it and for your patience working with our staff. So again, this is local government at its best, and listening to the residents. So again, thank you for all that participate, and thank you to staff for putting this together.
And just very generally, appreciate all of my colleagues' comments and absolutely endorse them wholeheartedly. Mr. City Clerk, I believe it's appropriate for a roll call to approve the item. A motion to approve the item, I apologize.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Councilmember Jimenez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. And now a roll call, please.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. The item passes unanimously. Moving on to old business, number 12, receive and file the fiscal year 2021-22 annual comprehensive financial report. Ms. Salazar, is there a presentation?
Yes, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to invite our Director of Finance, Michael Solorza, who will be presenting the act for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you. So tonight, item continued from the March 22nd meeting is presentation of our annual comprehensive financial report. So a little overview here. Our ACFR is produced annually. It's in the name. And the city utilizes a third-party auditor to independently analyze our financial statements and internal controls and express opinions on financial statements, our internal controls, federal funds, the whole 9 yards. This is the first year we're using a new auditor as part of the rotation process required by state law. We did an RFP last year and chose the Poon Group to be our new auditors going forward. The ACFR is a look back on the prior year versus the budget, which we were discussing last week, is kind of a projection going forward. The ACFR is, we're closing the books and looking at our financial status from the prior year. So our auditors, their scope of services, at a very basic level, financial statement audit. They do a separate required, it's called the single audit of all federally funded programs. And we have several federally funded programs, CDBG, home, obviously our transit operations receive federal grants. So that's a required audit conducted by our third-party auditors. And then the state controller's office with the state of California requires 3 separate reports as well, which is prepared by the Poon Group. So part of the auditor's scope of work is they will produce an opinion. What we want is an unmodified opinion. That's basically a clean audit. And the basic statement is financial statements fairly present in all material respects the city's financial position and our change in net position. So in other words, auditor's review basically says everything as presented in the ACFR is presented fairly and in material aspects, which is important because with 200 million, give or take, in expenditures, certain expenses are not material, but when you look at something that's material at a $25,000 or $50,000 level, it is significant. You read my mind. Thank you, Arlene. So as mentioned, the Poon Group is a new auditor for this year. When I say this year, I mean 21-22, again, looking back. And part of their work is they're confirming the prior work from Vasquez. Again, Vasquez did tremendous work for us, very highly respected auditors, but as part of the best practices, Poon Group looks to make sure that what Vasquez did actually matches what they're looking at. So that was part of the process. Reconciling differences discovered, update notes and basic financial statements. Again, whenever you get a new set of eyes on something, it's always good every once in a while to kind of refresh what our document being presented looks like. And then, as mentioned earlier, state government code requires auditor rotation every 5 years. So this slide should look familiar. It was presented last week in terms of when we were discussing the budget. The difference in looking at our ACFR is when presented the budget, we look at the individual buckets, if you will, the general fund, the transit fund, local return funds. The ACFR rolls up a lot of data, so it's a much more summarized view than our budget, splitting things into government funds and proprietary or enterprise type funds. Again, it's a different way of looking at the same data per auditing standards. But the detail is in the ACFR. There is fund level detail for the general fund and for our major funds. And the major funds it's a calculation that our auditor does. So major funds like Prop C or Transit Fund, there's other major funds that get their own presentation as well versus being rolled up with other government or proprietary type funds. So overall, when we close the books, our government-wide financial summary, the city took in just over $164 million in revenue from all sources. We expended about just over $125 million. And again, this is all transactions, general fund or special revenue funds, grant funds, the hotels, transit, golf. That was, when we closed the books, that's how much we spent, that's how much revenue we brought in. And again, it's what you're seeing there is a combination of one-time and ongoing expenditures, whether it was operating revenue or grant-funded revenue. And then just to reiterate, when we closed the books, our general fund reserves ended at $14.716 million, with an unrestricted fund balance of $9.8 million. That was a change, net positive change, increase of $7.1 million from 6/30/2021 to 6/30/2022. And then just kind of bringing this slide back from last week, showing that if projections if our projections work as favorable as we're trending for 2023, we should be able to fully fund the City Council adopted reserve policies. So some more financial highlights. Total governmental activities revenue increased 14.2%, about $11.9 million. Primary reason was our sales tax, operating grants, and charges for services. Again, when we're talking governmental activities, that is the majority of our expenses, non-transit, non-golf, non-hotel. So it's a lot of special revenue funds, local return funds, general fund. And then our cash position, I think it's also very important to show that the city has sufficient liquidity to meet its daily needs. Unrestricted cash investments as of 6/30/2022, just over $100 million. Restricted cash investments, about $29 million. And per bond indentures, with our bond issues, we have a lot of funds held in reserve. Typically, your bond issues will require 1 year of debt service to be held in reserve. So that's the majority of that restricted cash investment is held by our fiscal agents related to bonds. And just this graph just shows how the city's balances with the state treasurer, our daily available cash, has increased over the last 6 years. The line at the top, that's our 2022 calendar year amount. You'll see that's the highest level our cash balances with LAIF have been in the last 6 years. Again, just showing that the city has sufficient liquidity to meet its daily needs. So all combined, again, not just general fund, we're looking across governmental and proprietary funds. We spent about $31.7 million on public safety, that's fire and police. Transit was $29.2 million, and public works was another $16 million. So some of those services that our residents see on a daily basis or are impacted most positively by those services. And then again, just highlighting our hotels for the fiscal year ending 21-22, Hilton Garden Inn ended with an operating surplus of $271,000, recovering extremely well from the 6-month closure and the negative impacts of the pandemic. Home2 Suites, operating surplus of $2.28 million, again, recovering very well post-pandemic as occupancy rates of both hotels have continued to increase. And we're continuing to see that. We're continuing to see the hotel occupancy rate increase and the hotels do relatively well. And that's the overview of our ACFR. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present. And if, at this point, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to take those. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Director Salorza. Councilmember Tamayo, are there any comments or questions on the ACFA report?
No, just thank you very much for taking this information and making it understandable and enjoyable to read. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Great
you.
job.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions at this moment. Just want to thank you and your staff for your efforts on completing this.
Councilmember Jimenez?
No questions. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
And Director, thank you again. I just have a couple of things that I'd probably like to follow up with another time. As for receiving and filing the report, you know, that's a administrative step here, but I would like to follow up on a couple of things. For example, the deficit of the internal service funds, and just taking a look at how we can resolve that number. The deficit of other post-employment benefits, and the way that that's growing. If we can, you know, talk about what the future of that looks like for the city. And then also compensated absences seems to be a pretty good portion of our annual payroll. So just curious about that. And then lastly, as a consideration for council, just understanding what our long-term debt looks like and how that's going to affect decision-making going forward. That's grown pretty substantially over the last couple of years with some of our major projects. So I'd also like to circle back and discuss that. But as for the presentation and as for the report, the work of our auditor and your office is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
With that, the action to file and receive, is there a motion on the table to do so?
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Councilmember
I'll
Melendez. Is
second
there
it.
a second? Second by Councilmember Jimenez. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Moving on to regular business, number 13, approval of amendment number 2 to professional services agreement number 3777 between the City of Montebello and Rangwall Associates for the comprehensive general plan update and bicycle master plan. Ms. Salazar, is there a staff report?
Mayor, we do not have a staff report. However, Director Palumbi is here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. And I'll look across the dais if my colleagues have any questions or comments on this item.
Just a general comment of support for the city to really take on a study of bike master plan. I think that's extremely important as we're trying to really understand ways of expanding uses of our streets beyond just automobiles and trying to create more safer avenues for our bicyclists as well as pedestrians. So very happy to see this be included in our general plan. And that concludes my comments.
And just to echo the Mayor Pro Tem's remarks, I appreciate staff for bringing this into the general plan, into a document that lives alongside a lot of the hopes and dreams that we'd like to see in our community over the next 10 or 15 years, and incorporating this in such a quick fashion to make sure that everything is passed along together and ourselves as well as future councils have a comprehensive roadmap to look at. With that, I'll take a motion to approve the item.
I motion to approve.
A motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Jimenez. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. The vote passes unanimously. Item number 14, approval of amendment number 1 to professional services agreement number 3858 with Advanced Avant-Garde Company for as-needed housing consulting services and approve issuing a request for proposals for future as-needed professional support services for the administration of home CDBG programs. Ms. Salazar, is there a staff report?
No, Mayor, we do not. However, Director Palumbi is here to answer any questions you might have.
Looking across the dais, are there any questions or comments by my colleagues?
No questions.
Mayor, we do have one speaker card request for agenda item 14.
Okay, please proceed.
Yes. Speaker Linda Nicholas on agenda item number 14.
Again, Linda Nicholas, co-founder of Match. I have a question how this Avant-Garde was chosen for this service. About 5 years ago, she was doing the CBG program, and I noticed on the warrant register, there was a name of a person name on there, and every warrant register, there was a $5,000 check that was issued. So I questioned it, and evidently, whenever she got backed up, she would hire this guy to do some of her overflow, and the city would pay him $5,000, even though she was paid for the whole contract, which I thought was ironic. And I said, if she's having a problem finishing this, she should be paying this man, not the city, which in hindsight, they did agree and they stopped paying him. So I would be very careful. Was this put out to bid, or is there any other way that you can get somebody else, or watch very carefully how these services are handled? Because if she's given an X amount of money, and there was over a $500,000 contract, and we were paying this fellow $5,000 twice a month, which is $10,000. That's a lot of money. And if we're paying her $500,000 for a contract, the work should be done by her. Avant-Garde, okay? So I was just wondering, how is it that we're giving this contract to this person, this company? Was it put out to bid? Did they even look into seeing if anybody else could do this? And if not, please be very careful about how her funds are being handled, and to make sure that the progress, that whatever is being done is done in-house with her, and we're not hiring an independent person besides that to finish the work that she's being hired to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Ms. Salazar, would you or staff be able to speak to her question regarding how the contract came about?
Sure, we currently, we did issue an RFP some years back for this type of services. The award was given to Avant-Garde. What we're requesting tonight is just to exercise our right to the one-year extension, which would allow us time to issue an RFP for the same type of services.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salazar.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the item.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion by Councilmember Melendez and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. The item passes unanimously. Moving on to the consent calendar, I'll ask for a little assistance here. Just as a reminder as to the new procedure, we will be taking comments concurrently along with any items that are pulled. So council will have the ability to pull items and speak on them. If we have any speaker cards, those will also be added to the order, and we'll hear the comments as the items are being heard. Before we poll council, I'd like to ask the city clerk if we have any speaker cards on consent calendar items.
Mayor, at this time, we do not have any speaker cards for consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Ms. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine. Any items a member wishes to discuss, including any items the public submitted speaker cards for, should be designated at this time. All other items may be approved in a single motion. Such approval will also waive the reading of any ordinance. At this time, would the council want to pull any items?
And going down the line, I lost my page here. Thank you. Councilmember Tamayo, do you have any items to pull?
No items.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
No items?
Councilmember Jimenez,
No.
Councilmember Melendez.
No items.
And I would like to ask that item number 16 be continued. I don't know if it'd be appropriate to make a motion to approve the consent calendar item with that direction.
Yes, we get a motion.
So I'll make a motion to that effect. Is there a second?
I will second.
So a motion by myself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. And the consent calendar passes unanimously with item number 16 being continued to the following meeting. Moving on to AB 1234, travel reports. Are there any from my colleagues? It was a short jaunt, but I'll just say heading over to the City of Commerce and attending the State of the City was an enlightening experience, a fun experience. Being able to just go right next door and see how they conduct business and the way that the community comes together there. Have to say that it was really awesome to see. Mayor Oralia Rebollo has definitely been a friend and an inspiration during my time in office. And so if you guys ever get the chance to check it out, I thought it was really amazing. And also bringing forward this concept of having two State of the City addresses, one that's geared toward businesses and talking about the economics of the city that are most of interest to them, and then having another State of the City with messaging that's geared for residents to be understood by residents. And I'll be talking with Ms. Salazar and city staff to perhaps bring that to our city and see the ways that we can really engage the community more and talk about the things that are of interest to them and opening it to a wider audience. Moving on to council orals, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta.
Yes, so I just have one today. First off, just want to thank the residents, including our little constituent who spoke about her experience as a student crossing that dangerous intersection that leads to her school, Bella Vista Elementary. I'd just like to discuss these traffic and safety concerns and that dangerous intersection along Finley Avenue and the 60 freeway exit, which families and the nearby elementary school have been advocating for the past 10 years. Accidents, as we have heard and witnessed, are a commonplace occurrence along that school crosswalk as fast-speeding cars speed down and zoom by the crosswalk that hundreds of kids walk through every day and every week. Impacted families have advocated for years about safety improvements and the potential to redesign that intersection and off-ramp by collaborating with Caltrans. I understand that a few years ago, Caltrans was engaging with the city and that a consultant was then hired to render a redesign. Unfortunately, changes in the Caltrans leadership stopped all conversations and really halted that process. I'd like to discuss just short-term solutions to improve safety along that crosswalk and get the ball moving forward for long-term solutions on the redesign of the freeway off-ramp and intersection. Currently, and I'm sure my colleagues have experienced this as well as all our residents who exit that freeway, the directional signs exiting the freeway are completely faded and completely non-legible, causing confusion and creating dangerous movements for drivers who have limited time to decide which lane to choose from as they exit based on the no right turn restriction. So as you exit, those signs on top of that off-ramp are completely non-legible, making that intersection even more dangerous. The crosswalk painting from the residential side in Montebello to Bella Vista Elementary is faded and worn out, again putting pedestrians at risk, with motorists less likely to expect any crossing pedestrians at that intersection, with lack of school cross signs or lights to grab the driver's attention. Just really, again, continuing that creation of a dangerous area for children and families, putting their lives at risk as they cross 2 times a day during some of the highest peak traffic times. The City of Monterey Park, as one of our constituents mentioned, has repainted its side of the crosswalk and added signage. With such major developments like Topgolf coming to the city, we can really predict major traffic congestion in that area, increasing the possibility of motor and pedestrian accidents at this intersection even further. So I had a conversation, a really positive conversation with our assistant city manager about possible short-term solutions as well as long-term solutions that can be implemented to increase safety and security for our children crossing to and back to school every day in that area. So I would just like to see if our assistant city manager or if our staff can talk a little bit about some of those short-term solutions that can be implemented, as well as how we can get the ball rolling in terms of long-term solutions and the execution of a traffic study for that area.
Well, I'll have Director James Enriquez step up to talk a little bit more about the latter part of that. But to at least initiate this conversation is James did reach out to Caltrans this afternoon, shortly after we had the conversation early this morning. And I know we are already starting at least the concept of doing some refresh on that intersection. So at this time, I think James is at the podium. I'll let him continue on with that conversation. And then if there's an action for a traffic calming study, that would require another council action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. A couple of things, as Assistant City Manager Salazar indicated, after our conversation this morning, I did reach out to Caltrans to reinforce the community's passion for solving the problems at that intersection. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, the longer-term solutions that deal with actual modifications to the off-ramp itself, such as closure, are quite a bit away if they're at all possible. However, any changes major changes we make to the intersection itself also needs to have Caltrans coordination because of the potential of backing up traffic onto the freeway. So I will be engaging Caltrans for any of those types of modifications. And in the meantime, we will schedule the refreshing of striping and signage at the intersection. Unfortunately, there's not any lights we can add at the intersection itself because it already is a signalized intersection, and that would only confuse drivers. But all the existing signage and striping, we will refresh.
Got it. Thank you so much, Director James, for being proactive in regards to reaching out to Caltrans. We did have a discussion earlier today, and it's unfortunate how difficult it is to have other agencies really have jurisdiction when it comes to these safety issues in our city. But I think being proactive and really bugging them in regards to the importance of these issues is extremely important. And so I hope that we can slowly but surely get that ball moving in regards to really having them take us seriously in regards to this collaboration of trying to find a more permanent solution to the area. In regards to a traffic calming study, that is something that I would like to receive consensus from my colleagues. Again, seeing that this is a major exit leading to the city of Montebello, and with the major developments that are coming into play, this is something that is going to be affecting all of Montebello, as well as not only the children that cross that crosswalk every day. So I would like to receive consensus on that part of today's discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, and thank you, Director Enriquez. Mayor Pro Tem, if you can just state as a motion what your request is.
Yes, I would like to motion to receive consensus to direct staff to conduct a traffic calming study of that intersection and area of the off-ramp highway.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second to the mayor's motion?
I second.
A second by Councilmember Tamayo. Mr. City Clerk, if we can please have a roll call.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez? Member Melendez?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye, and the Mayor Pro Tem has unanimous consent. Moving on to my own orals, I'd like to announce the appointments of Victor Cuevas and Sylvia Takayama to the Planning Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission, respectively. Mr. Cuevas brings a lot of experience in terms of his background with the County of LA, and as a past commissioner, just familiar with the system, so very excited to have him on board. And Ms. Takayama as the troop leader for Girl Scout Troop 71221, among the many, many hats that she wears. Very excited to have her aboard as well. I would like to request council consensus to agendize art in public places at a time that the assistant city manager would find most appropriate. I believe that there were a couple of questions left outstanding the last time that we spoke about it. So if we could work to perhaps getting some of those resolved and bringing it for council decision. This has been a long time in the making, and the city definitely would be better for having fees in place where developers contribute to the overall beautification and morale of our community. the fees structure that was created can potentially bring in millions and tens of millions of dollars to our city for public art, things like sculptures, water features, trees, murals and paintings, and overall beautification. I mean, things as simple as stamping a sidewalk with a nice design and to create a more engaging space. This is a huge opportunity for downtown Montebello. It's a huge opportunity for the area around the future Gold Line station on Washington and Greenwood and just all across our city. Having other people that are going to be benefiting from, incredible projects in our city and contributing a little bit to the beautification, I think is a worthwhile goal. So I will ask for council consensus to agendize that. And Ms. Salazar, do you have a date that you believe staff would be able to bring this back?
Mayor, after reviewing the oral, I did have a brief conversation with Director Palombi, and we feel that probably the most appropriate place, so it could be some significant discussion, would be at the special meeting for the Economic Development Action Plan, since it's an economic driver. So if that's amicable for you, we would like to do that. And I think we have a date pending in early May. I think it's like May 7th or something like that for the special meeting, but we think that that would give us enough time to dive into it a little bit more than outside of a traditional meeting.
That would work perfectly, thank you.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to that effect. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by the Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez? Aye. Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. And thank you very much to all of my colleagues for your support on that item. Next is I'd like to request council consensus to arrange official naming ceremonies for March Villa Field and Bill Walters Cabin. During the pandemic, I brought forward an item to recognize the incredible accomplishments of Marge Villa in a time where women in sports weren't quite as recognized. She had an incredible career as a professional ball player. And, I think with our fields celebrating that history and that accomplishment and inspiring young boys and girls to achieve the same would be a really fantastic addition. Later, Councilmember Melendez brought forward an item to recognize Bill Walters, an absolute giant in the community and a longtime Lion whose contributions are innumerable and who touched many, many lives. Unfortunately, because this was happening in the midst of the pandemic, we weren't quite able to celebrate at the locations as I think we would have liked and would have liked to see the community come together. So what I would like to do is ask for a council consensus to arrange for official naming ceremonies for these two facilities, as well as directing staff to procure signage that would appropriately honor Marge Villa and Bill Walters, and just arrange a moment for our community to really have some fun and learn a little bit about our history. So I am requesting consensus to that effect, or I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Melendez. Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez? Aye. Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. And thank you, colleagues, for your support on that item as well. And lastly, looking at our neighbors and the programs that they bring in and implement, one that I thought was really touching and really inspiring was the Young Men and Women's Conference that I last saw Mayor Sanchez or Dr. Sanchez host in the city of Pico Rivera. And it really drove home for me this idea of how our youth need very specific guidance, things as simple as how to tie a tie. And I think also just looking at how diverse the diversity that our youth are faced with in terms of finding gainful employment. When I was going to school, everything was about going to college. There was never really anything else that was mentioned. That was always the driving goal. But I think nowadays with the prices of higher education, and I think also just lifting up the honor of hardworking men and women of America and in our unions, there is a whole slew of careers out there and a whole slew of people that are needed, everything from people that put together our plumbing fixtures to electricians, doctors, and everything in between. So what I am asking council for consensus here is to work along with staff to develop a conference where we can bring in resources to our young men and women. That would be everything from perhaps military recruiters to college counselors to unions that would be able to provide information and maybe talk a little bit about what life is like in the government sector, in the private sector, as an employee or as a business owner, and really just give our youth the opportunity to succeed. You know, a lot of times we say that MUSD, you know, kind of handles the education of our children, but I do believe that as a city, we see how amazing our Parks and Recreation Department is in uplifting our youth and giving them opportunities for volunteerism. This is just another way I think that we can service our community. So I am requesting council consensus to work with staff to establish a young men's and women's conference for this year. That is my motion. Is there a second?
If I may, I would like, if I may, I would
Yes.
like to ask, so again, I know a lot of people have issues with this, but I am a parent, I am the parent of a queer child. She is gay, she is lesbian, and I would really like and love to support this, but I want to make sure if this is going to be as inclusive as possible of the trans community and gender nonconforming youth. Not just to make sure that in the language that we put together or that our staff moves forward in putting together is completely inclusive of every member of our youth, but also to ensure that the speakers that come and do their presentations, that we make sure that we have that open to them as well. This has been a common theme at my daughter's school, and she goes to an all-girls school, where there are just not enough presenters or speakers at any of the conferences that they've been to in the past. So it's very unfair for children or for the youth that would come to these conferences and not be able to relate to any of the speakers. So I would ask, in moving forward to support this, that you are as inclusive as possible of every member of this community.
And that point is well taken, Councilmember Jimenez. Thank you very much for highlighting the issues of our LGBTQ community. We can absolutely be sensitive to make sure that all of our youth feel inclusive and represented in the program that we put together.
Thank you. So I'd make a motion to move forward with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Jimenez. And so I believe with my motion and the second by Councilmember Jimenez, Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Once again, I cannot say it enough. I appreciate my colleagues for the support on that item. With council orals concluded, we are now ready to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
And we are adjourned at 8:36 p.m. Thank you very much.